Oh, my hip bones. Not very well connected to my knee bones. Ouch. That has got a ton of reverb going on. Right. What can you see over here? Oh, there I am. So we have here in front of us, upon us, vintage Thomas Blug vintage Summer of Love Strat. So I like these. I like the neck on them, and it's got, I think the Wilkinson pickups are really good. So neck pickup. Funnily enough, the neck pickup has a tone control down here. That's weird. And then the middle one is there. Obviously nothing on the bridge one. So good old Wilkinson pickups, 7.5-inch radius. Not the most convincing looking relic of any guitar ever, and lots of spilled curry on the pick guard. But that aside, actually from a distance it's a great looking guitar. And of course this is a right-handed one because I'm playing it, or I'm attempting to play it. Right-handed one, so of course it's not like a Hendrix guitar, because if I was having a complete Hendrix guitar, this would be upside down too. So it's a mishmash of left-handed neck on a right-handed guitar. Now Andrew sent it me, or bought it, and he wants me to convert it to left-handed, which means obviously I'm going to convert it to play like that, which is weird because that's not very Hendrixy, although that is upside down with the controls and the tremolo upside down, but we're going to do it that way. So it is an odd in-betweeny guitar. It has some interesting little features. I don't know why. I didn't read anything in the reviews to explain why these tone controls would be in that order. There's a push button there, which is a dummy coil, engages a dummy coil, which means you can have play the single coil on a crunch channel, so you can enjoy cranking it up without so much noise. This whole thing is, I think the saving grace about this is it's a Strat. Vintage Strats are pretty nice, vintage brand Strats. It's got a vintage push-in tremolo, so that's a good plus, and it's got a vintage brand neck, which for many years have been good quality necks. This has got a really nice, genuinely vintage feel about it. Old style, dark rosewood of some kind, 7.5 inch radius, not quite 7.25 but 7.5. What am I doing? Yeah, single coils, which in the Wilkinson tradition are, I've forgotten what the letters follow, but they actually sound pretty spanky. And we've got this relic bridge with a deliberate one screw missing as a sort of trademark thing. We've got the vintage headstock looking a little bit saffron rice coloured, and we've got, I don't know if this is an upgrade, I don't know if this came from an owner, I think it was from an owner rather than brand new, but here we've got quite a gap, which is going to be a bit of a challenge, because one of the things I know is typically, this may have been worsened by a previous owner, but these slots on other vintage necks, Encore necks, particularly the Indian ones, but other vintage ones, always ended up being a bit wider than your standard replacement nut. So that makes this an absolute pain, because we can't just drop a knot in there, or drop a nut, as it were. So we're going to obviously change this over. It's not a great relicking affair here, but again, at a distance it looks perfectly fine, but you can feel just by rubbing your hand on it there's nothing particularly relic about it. Dirtied looking thing, and a piece of paper stuck on saying made in Vietnam, which is pretty horrible. We'll take that off. And we've got Wilkinson Deluxe tuners, which are again aged to give them a bit of a, not a bad, vintage look. So I keep this thing a bit stiller. You can enjoy the look of the vintage tuners, Wilkinson Deluxe. But generally speaking, these vintage guitar necks, we've got full weight block there. Vintage brand necks on these reissued ones, and also the signature series like this, are really nice. If you get one of those, hold on to it. If you get one of these, modify it if you must, but keep it. I'm not a great fan of left-handed. I don't like tuning on the bottom, so this guitar, funnily enough, although I like everything about it except that, the problem is, I think there's another one, isn't there? There's another Thomas Blug with a right-handed. I'd go for that one. Same neck, I think, but apart from the headstock reversal. Anyway, it's a pretty cool looking thing, and it plays nice, and it's at the moment set with a pretty high action. Now it's 7.5, so there are limits to what you can do in terms of the action, but we can get it lower than that, and we'll probably end up giving it a light fret leveling at the same time. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is use these use these strings and fit them on the other way, and basically use them to do a setup reverse, so fat string here, and then we're going to just see what we've got. Also, while I'm taking these off, be able to have a good look at this nut. Judging by the amount of crackle on the pots, I do suspect this has been owned and played for a while, and this may well have been a replacement nut that someone's put in and discovered that it's actually not a good fit. Their solution was to leave it rock forward, and I think that's a problem really, because it takes away a little bit of the playing space. Ow! Jesus! Of that first fret. So we really don't want a nut rocking forward, even if it's glued to the front edge. We don't want it that way. So I think what I'll rather do, if I need to, that is a ghastly fitment. Look at this close up. It's horrible. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't ship like that, but I don't remember. I have a horrible feeling. Well, it's just, as you can see, way too much of a gap, and it really doesn't fit very well. Sorry about the focus being so poor. So we're going to need to change that anyway, because we need a left-handed nut, and it may be that I have to make one, and I've basically got a left-handed, well, I've got a block of Tusq, a nut that I probably won't use, but I've got it standing by so that I can basically make one from scratch. Because with this thing being too wide, let's just have a feel how well this is stuck, or how not well. Obviously I don't want it to damage anything. Well, it is a standard Tusq nut, right-handed, but this slot it's too big, but it's also been repaired, so I think somebody's somewhere taken a chunk out of it, possibly while tapping the nut or something in the first place. I don't think, hello, come on, I don't think Vintage shipped with Tusq nuts fitted, so I have a feeling that something right there broke, chipped out, and it's been repaired with some dust and glue. You see that? And it's overhanging a bit. But as a result, we've then ended up with this too wide thing. Now, different ways you can approach this. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of gunge everywhere in here. It's a bit of a mess. I don't know how much of this broke off. Sometimes if you look across the front, you can see where it's chipped off a whole chunk. It doesn't appear to have done so there. So we're now left with a much wider slot, which is going to require some doing, and it might be one of those things that will just take forever to do. May not be worth watching because it's just non-stop. So it's looking at a mixture of 380, 388, 368, 388, 378. Call it 380. Right, we're looking to make a 380, which is way wider than a standard nut slot. 380. It's either that. So I did, here's a bought one ready to go, but obviously that isn't going to work now because it will just wobble the way that other one wobbled. There's an alternative. We could build up one, but that's the wrong-handed one anyway, so we'd be pretty much making one from scratch anyway, even if we boosted the existing one. It doesn't apart from the basic spacing might stay the same, but really, now this is a flat-bottomed nut, which I suppose makes this a little bit easier. Here we are on the left-handed side, so we've got a chunky nut here. Let's have a look at the space. The spacing happens to be just a fraction tighter than the original, but we don't even have to keep the spacing. We can redo it. I mean, let's see if I've got any others kicking around. I've got quite a lot of white ones. Oh, no, that's too short now. I've got a block of black Tusq, too short. I've used it for things incautiously used. Right, so you can see straight away we're stuck in I've got a repaired shaggy, it has been repaired, this is glue and dust, but we've got to make something new. Now, like I say, we could fit a new piece to here, but we've even got to clean that up because it's raggedy. Ugh. Sometimes another way of doing it is to go with start with the slot and fill the slot with some sort of, oh yeah, there's a lot of glue in here that's being used to fill something. Yeah, you can fill the slot with rosewood, but it's a stinking mess at the moment. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a floor filing, because the problem with this, with a flat bottom nut now, is this is kind of likely, or this is vulnerable to rocking because it's now been made uneven. So, but we've got 3.8 to work with now. This is not crisply cut. This is shaggy. Trying to make this thing 90 degrees cut. Huh. Yeah, that's funny. We can give it a little bit of a clean, I guess. Probably better to do it with maybe, possibly a little file. It's just where the glue and the sawdust, rosewood dust, stuck up a little bit, so it's crunchy. So we just try and take it off. Just take the crunchy lip off it. Okay. So the trick will be to make a nut that fits in here first, and it's going to be a straight nut, and it's going to be, what did we say, 3.8 thickness. So you look at 3.9 and see where it comes to. Right, so it's quite difficult, in fact very difficult to put on a saw and cut it, but I'll give it a go and see if it will just wear off the back edge. But I'll need a little block of timber to do it, or two. Bear with me, please. Excuse any noises. Perhaps a piece of this, a piece of this. I just need to grip it mightily firmly. Now we're just going to take a small piece off the edge there. Now this doesn't even sit smooth for some reason. So now what have we got? Strips. What's that from? In the winter I'm always on the lookout for rain dripping through. It makes me somewhat nervous. Now why are these two uneven levels? That one's down to there. Nearly there. Nearer. Right. Very dark, can't see much. Rocking and rolling all night long. Stay on there. Thank you. These days are ours. No, I tell you what, I'd rather a flatter piece of wood so I can see what I'm doing. These days are ours, happy and free, oh happy days. That's a better view. Right. Nice. Nice, and a little bit of spare left over. And of course we have to check it now, and if it goes below the actual target width. No, it's a little bit above. Good. So what do I have to do now? Any more zoom out so I can do? No. What I have to do now is move these out of the way. a bit. Hoik me up the sanding board and with some careful hand sanding I have to sand this down to my target size, and that's a difficult one to do. Takes a fair bit of care. And top, bottom. So what did we say it was? 380. Let's go to 380. I mean, making your own nut is not easy. It's quite easy to get wrong, and then you end up having to start again. But sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you really don't have much of a choice because of the nut slot you've got in front of you. It is a bit of a pain because that nut slot is unworkable by any other means. Okay, so now I want to just try and get this leveled out as much as possible. I'm sort of mostly using the finer paper because I want to get this 3.8. What I'm going to do is just concentrate first of all on the thickness to get it in, and then once we're at the right thickness, concentrate on the shape of it, and then of course we have to put nut slots onto it, which are very hard to do and keep consistent in their positioning. Okay, so at 383 we're just about borderline fitting, a little bit down on the base end. And of course you can, once you're sort of there, you can start feeding it in at this end, and it wants to seat. It's not quite fitting, still a little bit too big, and that could be in part because the this thing slot isn't perfect either, thanks to whatever's been done to it before. Now, so once I'm sort of happy that this side is as flat as I can be, there's a little burr on this side that I also need to try and take out. Conscious that it will also thin it down, but as long as it drops in, it's okay on the, what's the treble side on this one, but it's still struggling on the bass side. Problem with the nut slot is I don't have a tool for very easily widening it one side or the other, so if it's a little bit narrowed off at one end, I'm going to have to try and sort of sneak the nut into fitting that way. So nearly there. I'm going to do a tiny bit more on both faces. Okay. What did we say? The base side was a little bit more tight. Now what you can do then is, to be as safe as we can, is come back and check the fit if we can. So that's sort of sitting in. It's still a tiny bit of room in there, but it's not 100% seated. So we've got a tiny bit of grime and goo still sticking in the way, and that is very difficult to clean up. So we can try and do it like so with a blade and cut down as straight as we can, but again that doesn't often or doesn't always work as a clean cut corner, right angled corner. You can take the chisel to it eventually if you have to. See, that's nearly there. But as I mentioned before, what we don't know at the moment is how flat this is because of what's been done to it before. And so we've got to try and do whatever we can to make it flat. Very, very difficult business cutting nuts from scratch to fit a ragged slot. If it's a perfectly machined slot, it does seem to be much simpler. Kind of hardly surprising, but really all I'm trying to do here is just make sure these corners are cut as squarely, as right-angledly as possible. So sometimes a good way of getting a flat bit of flattening is to use a really fresh blade like this and run it backwards and forwards in the shelf. You can see it pulls up quite a bit of glue detritus and stuff. Okay, so obviously we're starting out miles too tall. It's still not it's not fitting. It's fitted on the treble side, but it's not seated 100% well on the bass side, and it suggests that it's got a bit of a unevenness that's rocking over that side. So again, we can try with the gentle nut shelf file. Bit of stuff sticking up there. Yeah, so I don't think I've ever seen a slot as wide as this, I have to say. I think this has been slightly bouchard in the past, but it's quite common. You know, you get things that have been messed about with. So what I'm looking for on both sides is a point at which it's going to sit flat. And I've got to check if it's not sitting flat, because there may, for example, just be just a little ditch at the end. Sometimes when people do stuff, especially with chisels, they can work the end of a slot like this and end up cutting it in a slope. And so I'm going to try and see if I can see. That's a bit better. Sorry about the camera work. I'm just going to see if this file here touches that pencil on the side that I'm having a problem with. Okay, so what we've got, we've got a taller, we're taller on the back edge, so it's the cutter, the file is running on that back edge at the moment. Square, pretty square, man. Yeah, it's not. It's shining up part of it. It's a nice, better fit. It's getting there. See, that's a gap there. So there's appears to be higher on this headstock end of it. So I guess I have no real choice but to try and level it flat. Eventually, if we eventually get it to sort of seat in here properly, clearly. See this edge there. I think this has gone down at the end. I think it's been cut on a very slight slope, but as you can imagine, I don't have an awful lot of control over that. I can just work it with this and hope that one side catches up with the other side eventually. Be good if this had had a bit of a grain, a bit of a cutting edge on it. But it doesn't, so it only cuts on the bottom. I could really do with a little bit of cutting on the side too. Right, let's have a look. I mean, it will work, but there is a little bit of that sticking up that I hate. It drives me nuts. But like I say, I don't feel like it's. I think it's quite a big roll off. I'm trying to think of yeah. In fact, if you look, you may well be able to see if my phone will do anything. I'm telling you. You see. Wow. Close up. Okay, from there to the edge is cut away. That's why we've got a little gap. I'm going to try a little funny repair that I've never used before in a nut slot, but I'm going to do it now because I feel like it. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use a bit of burn-in stick. You're going to be witness to it. All I want for Christmas is this thing to level off. Not that thing, where has it gone? I want that thing to level off so I don't have that slight tiny gap on the underside. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use this piece of burn-in stick and I'm going to liquefy it and put it on the end, and then I'm going to scrape it back flush, and I promise you it will look like it's always been there, and it will look like the rosewood. That's the promise. I've used it to repair in the past, to repair some pretty big tear-outs on a guitar that I received, and oh yeah, I can see where it's being filed badly right there. Well, you can too. You can see that close up. I don't think we can get any more closer up, but right there it's being clawed away by some file. So I'm just going to get a blob in there and just coat that, and then I'm going to just do my best to scrape it down. In some ways I could probably access it better from another end, but now about that. You didn't even see it happen, did you? Whew. What did you do? Well, I filled it with sticky burn-in stuff. I'm going to scrape it back on the top here. That's the first touch. Then I'm going to, with your helping eyes, I can't really see that much better myself. I'm going to now go in here and I'm going to sort of try and scrape it. It's a little bit difficult, but it is working. So I don't need any caught up on the side here. I don't want it clagging up the edge. I want it just in the bottom part. So I'm just pulling it away there. I'm going to do similar there. Now, good thing about this is that it actually does scrape off pretty well. So it's not a very solid material, but the idea will be that if I'm lucky, I can get a bit of a flat surface where I need it. And it really is, more than anything, I just want it to hide that little gap. Now, have I gone? No, I may have gone in far enough. I can just scrape it off the wood there, like so, and again, just take it off the face of the headstock. No, the cut face of the rosewood, and then similar on this back. I can't see the back bit, but I'm going by feel. and then I want the blade to work it backwards to as level as I can, and I'm using hopefully the bulk of the rest of the shelf to do it. I don't know if you can see anything there. Oops, sorry. I don't know if you can see in there now. We're starting to flatten that bit down there. There's a little bit of a dent down there still. It may be difficult to get it to go right to the edge, but I'm sort of going to now use the whole shelf as the guide. Perhaps by the time we get down to the level, we may have got rid of that little end drop still. So many lovely, careful, fiddly things you can do when fixing things. So a pretty non-standard way of doing something, but the aim is to achieve a fill of the space that's otherwise going to going to show up underneath the oops, I think I might have cracked a bit too much off there. Oh, there we go. We'll see. We shall see. Yeah, I may have just pressed down and crumbled a big chunk off, when really I should have just been very carefully doing this. Scraping more than anything. But I don't think it needed hardly anything, so we may, in fact we may actually still get away with it. I didn't watch any Streets of San Francisco today, so I've had a missing it. Need to go back and watch them later on. Now that feels leveled out. Can you see that? Ta-da! My fiddly fingers. That is a flatterer. And then we put this on here. Now it's squeezing a little bit, trying to get into there because of there's still a little bit left on the walls. I wish I had a brighter light. Oh yes, I do. So I'm sort of going to need to obscure you, I think, a bit, but sorry about that. So I've still got some scraping to do. It's very difficult to get any purchase from the edge. Perhaps like so. We'll get there. So yeah, it's a softish material, but I think what it will give us is just that little close up of that block that's in the way. So pushing it through, it's just a tiny bit tight. Now what I obviously don't want to do is I don't want to adjust the nut any further, so I'm just going to have to keep in mind that I've got to wear this little bit of whatever that stuff's called, burn stick, down manually. Yeah, and one day when it's covered over, you won't even notice. I'll tell you what I did watch today, and that was Casablanca. I mean, if that isn't the best film in history, I don't know what is. I mean, it really is. Could even be the very best. I actually can't think of a film that tops it, really. Just a brilliant movie. I always wonder if they knew at the time that they'd hit such perfection in the production of that. nearly there. That's much nearlier. I'm going to keep sanding a little bit. Keep scraping, I should say. Yeah, I mean, what an absolute quality movie. 1942 was it? I mean, stirring as well. When you think about, you know, what it was dealing with, it was just, yeah, heart stirring. When you think of all the kind of tensions of the Vichy France that the Germans trying to take over everywhere, including Morocco, Casablanca. Right, I think that's as close as I'm going to get, close as I get. Now, the thing about this is, I'm quite obviously going to need to reduce this quite a bit. I don't know what you can see there, sorry. This thing doesn't seem to behave. Right, so I'm going to need to reduce this, and I'm going to need to make new slots. Actually, what I might just do is I might just run this over here a minute. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm going to reduce it, and the question is how much, and the answer is how much do you want? Well, that's still, damn it, still a little bit rolling off the edge. I think I've gone down quite low. I might put a tiny bit more on. I'm just keen to get it right. In fact, what I might do is I might bring it round to here where I can see it slightly better for now. I'll just run a little bit more into there. I think it's still falling off the edge. Very difficult to tell. Yes, brilliant film. Oh, it's so close. So close. So close, man. What I actually don't know is even how straight this is at the bottom. I think it is probably very good, but what I can do is just do a little bit of sanding here to see if there are any tags or anything stopping it seating smoothly. It's not perfectly level. It's got the mouldings and everything getting in the way. Close, but not quite the cigar. So I'm going to do a tiny little bit more on the edge here. See if I can get a blob of it on the... Oops, that's not really very good, is it? Down the side of the neck. It's difficult to build something up. If it's got like a little dent in it, it's going to always want to go down that bit. Let's turn that down. Okay. So back we go. Sorry, I'm terrible camera work these days. You can tell I'm concentrating hugely. So it's just, yeah, boring scraping really. There's no quick way of doing it. If you do it quick, you mess it up and it doesn't work. Yeah, so this burn-in stick I think is meant for well, it's meant for filling blemishes in wood actually, obviously, but I think it's a kind of furniture restorer type product normally, and I came across it because I was looking for some material to fill the end gaps on guitars, because it seemed to be quite a difficult thing to find the right material once you've done a fretting. And so I sort of hunted high and low and came across the principle of burn-in sticks. Burn-in sticks. I can't remember what they call them. Anyway, and I came across there were some shellac ones that furniture restorers seem to use, and then there were some resin-based ones, which, for all I know, could be the shellac ones. Could also be resin, but it's hard to work out exactly what the composition of anything is when you're hunting around for a solution to a problem. Anyway, resin sounded like a good hardy idea. Now I'm just trying to clear this wall edge here, because we want a sort of right angle at the bottom. Yes, so I tried it out first of all for end gap fills, and it seems to be pretty good. It's quite messy in that it takes a fair while to scrape clean an area. So if you're filling the end gaps, you've got to sort of scrape it all out there. You can see it dribbles sometimes. Let's have a look what shows up now. So a setup now has suddenly been extended, as you can see, by needing to get that to fit, and I think that is trying to fit, but it won't fit because there's a little sticking out of the stuff. So I'm going to have to try and dig that out without digging in too far and crisping or carving off too much of the stuff. I say it's not the most rigid stuff in the world, but it's good in that it's a little bit flexible. You can do this sort of carving. That's close. Can feel it just sticking up a bit one side there as well, so I'm just going to try get this down. Refusing to be perfect. I mean, the thing is, I can fill it once I've got it in there if necessary. That's the other thing. It's probably easier in the end to just put put the next bit on. So let's move on. Okay, so what I need to do now is I'm going to reduce this down in size. Now people often use a thing where they get a pencil, half of a pencil, and kind of run it along there and tell themselves where the frets are. And my version of that is to try and do it with this blade, but actually it's quite unreliable because it bends quite a bit. In fact, these bend more than the other variety did, so I'm getting a bit of an unreliable reading. Anything? So there's what is the other trick? It's cutting our pencil in half, isn't it? We got half a pencil I can use for that. Oh, that's too much trouble. What I know is the height of the fret. So I want the height of the fret plus about 5 mils. So fret is 1, call it 1.5. 1.5 from the bottom would be, sorry, we need, so it's 1.5, and then we've got this eye here, this eye here, 3, 4.5, so 4.5, let's go to 4.75 just to be on the safe side. We can always cut down. 475 from the end. So now I've got me a line, which is where I'm going to cut this down to. Now I can do a couple of ways, and I'm probably going to bit of hand thingying. Ooh, have I spilt glue? So I'm going to lose me the notches. We have to really. They're not the right space apart anyway. So better I lose them. Get myself a better surface to work with. Okay, so that's the original once it's taken off. Let's use that little brush here. Now we've got our nut approaching the right size, and at some point in a minute, which side is front and back? I've lost track really. So it's probably still that side, that way and that way. Worry about the fit, exact fit, and it's only a tiny bit oversized. So up you come. So I'm going to need next to mark out the fret spacing. Fret spacing? No, the nut spacing. Now I've got the original here. Which we could use as the basic template. One side is a bit further than the. See, we're going to run that way. That's that way. That's which way round was I using? Just it doesn't really matter, but let's just see if one's better or worse than the other. Sitting one way. That's that way. That's that way. Okay, so let's call this one front. Right, so we can become, now the interesting thing is when you do a front and a back, when you do a remarking up positions, normally what happens is you can't put them nut face to face because one's left-handed and one's, or both of them are right-handed when you're duplicating them. But this one, because we're going from left-handed to right-handed, I can actually press them face to face, and the lighting's terrible. It's terrible anyway, but I can technically mark up my string positions. So, like so. So, now we know that one's the front. So we know that one's the front, we do. So, we can get this, let's hold it in something, let's get it fitted in something with a bit of grip. Let's try this thing. This one. Front edge. Not necessarily the best grippy thing in the world, but I think it'd be better than trying to hold it by hand. So there's our positioning. First of all, we really want to make just straight downward cuts to mark them. So again, I might use another vice-like thing just to hold all of this in place. Again, better than trying to hold it by hand. Just hold it there, something like that. Yeah, I reckons keeps that from moving. So let's just sharpen this pencil a tiny tad more. And then with this, now this is a bit hit and miss. It's also shiny, so it's horrible when you get reflection and you can't see what the reflection's doing, or it blinds you a bit. That one. That one. That one. That one. Trying to get dead centre of these thicker ones, you see. So, right. So there could be our start points, and here is our very thin. What do they call this? There was a name for this saw, and I've forgotten it. It's a very thin saw. Now, keeping these perfectly spaced is very difficult indeed. And I is not 100% sure I'm going to manage it perfectly well. So when you look at these things, you sort of looking to measure up the distances, and they can be just fractionally out. So that one there is fractionally out. So if we were going to use a 10.10 marker, and we were going to go, this is the 10 end here. So if that's the front, did we say that was the front? I seem to be doing this the right way around. That's got to be, that's more like the front. Okay, so this will be the thin end here, and we're a bit off on that one. Okay, so if this was 10, actually let's use these in order. So 13 is in a good place. 13, 10, 13. Now this one's a fraction off, so we need to try and make it wander a tiny bit to the side on the 17. That's okay. Then we're going 26. I'm back to front again, aren't I? What the hell side is this? That's, yes, so there's 26 down there, yeah, thin. Right, okay. Oh, I'm not going mad. That one. That one. And this one. Oof, running off the mark. bit of this a minute. Okay, so got my spacings there. Let's just have a quick glance at how this would sit. We're going to probably end up going down quite a bit. Now I've actually turned this round the other way, I think. Front, yeah, so I'm going front here now. Sorry if you can't see a minute. So this is running way over. Now this is not quite fitting, but we'll come back to that. What we're interested in is getting the darn thing to sit right. Flush there, that's good. A little bit overhang there, that's good. So we'll take off this overhang, and we will mark it with this, I think. Look at this, I haven't even got anywhere near to doing the strings yet and turning them over. Right, so I've marked the extent of the sand back. I think I'll just pull this off with these instead of bending it over that edge. That's what we don't want. It's better. Right, that's 1/2 mil off the edge there, or and a bit. So where do we go? Nearly there. Tiny bit more. Okay. Good, looks good. Line up for a minute. That's good. Okay, so what did we say? We had 4.5, which was, we had 1.5. So we had 3 and 1.5, 4.5, 4.5. 4.5 would be well clear. So okay, that's not far off doing it. Right, I'm going to put that in there, and we'll do the rest of the reduction by hand. Push that in there. Come on. Smooth, please. Right, let's move a few things out of the way. Back here. Oops. Now, next bit is actually turning the strings around, but that's a bit boring too, because I've got to now flatten them out one by one before we pull them out. Right, so just to get them and reuse them successfully, I'm going to back to front. I don't think we're actually going to manage it, are we? That's going to be good for there. Where's the short? We might just get there. Well, let's flatten them anyway. Failing that, we'll have to sacrifice some strings. This is what happens when you go from left to right hand. So again, you can see nothing simple, nothing ever is simple when it comes to guitars. Very rarely is simple. So let's see. But I'm not complaining, because it's what makes it fun. Anyway. Hey, did you notice that in a couple of days we'll be heading towards spring again? Now, I've got to say, although I do love the spring and summer season, oh yes, and I like to be outside in my hammock looking at the clouds going by as much of the time as is possible, whilst obviously getting everything else I have to get done. But that's why it's great to be able to work in the evenings, because I can enjoy the summer sunshine a lot and still get my work done. But yes, in about 9 days time, 10 days time, 21st of December, we shall be changing direction. Well, not exactly, but heading back towards shorter days. Right, let's try and... Something went flying. Oh, the nut did. Right, I'm going to have to go and search for that. It fell out. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change all these around and see which ones I can reuse and which ones I have to replace. So I may get lucky, and maybe the thin ones are long enough to get all the way back again, if they get straightened out sufficiently. Right, here we go. Bass string down to the bottom. Yes. Alright, these are easy lock tuners, as it happens. Somebody said staggered posts, meaning you didn't need a string tree. I think they were wrong about that, because this guitar certainly has a string tree on it, and I think it needs it. The Wilkinson easy lock tuners are not really staggered as in staggered to lower the height. Oh God, there it is. They are, the easy lock part is to make it easier to string them up, and it kind of locks them in place. Right, let's just get this, get the D on first. Get the D on. Now I'm not going to worry about the easy locky bit here, I'm just going to get them on and tied up. Borrow this. Pull up, pull up. Oh, come on, man. Right, get on there. Yes, that's the annoying thing, that this is not a good nut slot, and you know, once you start out with not a good nut slot, you are in trouble. You've got to fix it. And to be honest, fixing it usually means building your own nut. To do, is it? Undo. Do up. It's about a mile high there. Got quite a bit of work to do on that one. Right, so the hard bit is fitting the thin strings now. For start, are they even long enough? So that one goes down to the bottom. No, I don't think we get anywhere close to it. I think we'll just better give up from the start. That's a waste of time. Let's see if I've got any hanging around here that will do. We're looking for the high ones, baby. No, that's not going to work either, is it? We can get a G maybe, but we won't get anything much better than that. we got? Is this a G? That's a G. And it's the wrong, probably the wrong gauge and everything, but we don't have much choice at the moment. This is really setup purposes only. Wow, this is one hell of a tall thing. I'm probably going to pull the thingy off, pull the nut off and take down quite a bit on one side. But what have we got? That's probably a B. Let's try that one. It's not a G, I don't think. No, it's a G. So that's no good. So I'm now short of most things. I don't want to have to waste an entire set, but I probably will have to. Aye. Okay, I think we just have to bite the bullet and chuck away a set. I've got no more. Well, thanks Adam for your kind donations to the reloved thingy. What have we got there? Oh, we got 4. We just need 2. It's just a shame to pull out 2. Let's do the top 2 then. Yes, I think we'll have to take a couple of mils off that in a hurry, so we don't start miles from anywhere. Sorry, I'm not very conversational tonight. Somebody very kindly said that they liked my particular approach to rambling. I thought it was very sweet. But sometimes I'm in a rambling mode, and sometimes I aren't. Depends. I mean, choosing your subject to ramble and rant about is, you know, every time I export a video and it says, does your video contain, is it for children? No. Does it contain sensitive issues? War, death, famine, scary things, existential stuff. And I'm sort of like, well, yes, it does a bit. But I think to myself, I'm not going to tell them. Hell no. Oh, get on there. So if it does contain those issues, then, well, it does, but I don't declare them. It's like going through customs at the airport and not telling them. Not that I've ever done that, of course. Right, so I'm just going to take a quick look at the outrageously stupid heights that I've got here, and of course you can see that I'm going to need to remove. Well, I can see. What am I trying to do? I want so 2.5 on that side comfortably, and 2.5 and 1, let's call it, just to be on the safe side. 2.5 and 1. And we'll make it go in a line. 2.5 and 1. 2.5 and 1, like so. And let's just make sure that was seated in where it was supposed to be seated in. Yes, it had all the, everything was sitting where it should, wasn't it? Just try once again so I don't ruin this. 2.5. close. 2.5 and 1. Yeah, 2.5 and 1 to be on the safe side. Okay, 2.5 and 1, there's the front edge. We'll make our mark. 2.5. Wow. 2.5 goes to there. 1. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfect, as long as we're close before we start working with the slot files. The slot files. That's odd. I don't trust this. There's something not right here. There ain't something not right. There is not something in right. I don't get it. So that's pulled that down nice and flat. Fine. Frontwards. Oh, crying out loud. This angle is too wrong. See how much trouble this is causing? So that it's actually quite deep at that end. So first of all, this whole slope now I'm seeing is actually not even straight. So somebody has gouged the living daylights out of it. So this idea of having to go down the hill here is actually correct. I am going to have to go mostly down the hill, but it isn't seated properly. What the hell? Yeah, so that's the other thing now, as I can see, is that it's quite a slope, hence this thing is wants to be cut quite extremely. Let's try that at that end a minute. Sorry about this, this is the most boring setup video ever. So that's a nice fit there, if only this was not going downhill. I don't believe that's going to work that way. That's too much of a slope. This thing is lying to me. Alright, I'm going to try something just very slightly. Sand any more down. So what is wrong with this? I mean, somebody has made an absolute dog's dinner of this slot, that's for sure. Get my fingers under there. I am making life difficult. Right, for some reason this is fighting me. Right, that's there, that's flat. There's no problem with that, that is flat. This is there, that goes to there, and then it comes up it rides up. So that's not good. It's riding up at that end for some reason. But the problem is I can't tell if it's an actual rise. There's a roll off at that end, that's for sure. My God, this is. I hate it when somebody's messed the nut slot up like this. Like I say, you really can't read it, and the light isn't great enough to tell you what's happening. Okay, so I think what we've got is we've got very narrow, quite a narrowing down this end where they've rebuilt it with some, I think, some paper, some glue and whatnot. So the problem is we've got a thinner slot at this end, and I don't really have anything that's going to open it up easily at that end, other than potentially very fine use of this thing here. It's definitely narrowing at that end. I think it's causing this to stick. I don't want to end up with it loose, that's the thing. It'd be just a terrible shame. Whatever is going on here, it doesn't want to seat straight, that's for sure. So this gets thickened up at that end, so I can't use that. What's that? Well, luckily I've got a couple of days I can extend this one into, because it's not looking like it's going to play the game tonight. Play the ball, play by the rules. That's pretty close. So I've got to figure out what the excess height is now. I can chop it off. Go. At this end we've got 2.5. We really want to take 2. We can lose 2 off this end. Ow! Jeez. Stupid thing. And we go 1 off this end, right? Or something close. Two off the base side, and I would say 1.2, 2 and 1.2, 2 and 1.2, 2 and 1.2, right, off you come, 2 and 1.2, let's just get there, 2 and 1.2, that's at the base side, but it's a curved, rounded thing, so the middle is going to be 1.5 and 1. 1.75 and 1. 1.75 and 1. Front edge, front edge. Thank you. Okay, so we are on a bit of a slope still, but it's not quite as sloped as it was before. Okay, so I'm going to start this with a bit of the old drill again, just to save the amount of pushing I have to do. Just eases things along. So isn't that amazing, all of this time just to get the nut close to being right. Oh yeah, okay. I will need to get the thing up again. Sorry about this. More hand workings. So, where are we at? We are at that end and that end and a bit of that. Right, so that's too far forward. Let's straighten that up. Okay, okay. Okay, now put some pressure on it now. How are we doing? Quite a way down, that's good. Could do with straightening up a fraction more. So tipping it forwards a tiny bit. Okay, that's good. Let's try that. Try that on for size. Check the bottom, square. Check the top. That's good. Now, as we go up, this might get tightened up because as we go up the sort of thin it out, it gets a bit thicker near the top. Okay, so I feel. In fact, it's the other way, it's slightly thinner at the top now. I'll press that down here, that end doesn't come up, but that end is still struggling to stay in its locked down. Something came off there, that was good. Well, it's a little looser than I would like, but it's a start. Oops, sorry. Right. Oh, God almighty. Please. Please. 3, 3 and 3. Good, good, good. Right. So now, we've still got quite a bit. See, that's definitely trying to stay stuck. Stay up. Okay, so that's interesting because that's now a bit, say something. This making a nuts business, I can't stand it. It's a pain in the. Now here's where I want this to go. Somewhere like. So, for a minute. Come on, come on. somewhere like that is going to be the correct place. Right, let's try and get this sorted out now. Wrong way around. Okay. Right. Oh, now. So now we have to cut these to the correct heights, which cut the slots, which again is quite difficult. It's probably the kind of job that's best done off camera, because it's slow and boring, but also you feel less pressured to not screw up. Okay, so let's start with the. How much farther we got to go down? So. Can I do it? Can I do it? Yes, I can. Right. Let's start with, where are they? They're here. Let's have 0.3. Let's just check this end. Wow, that's massively low. Let's get that raised up a minute so it's feasibly where it should be. So look, what are we at? Oh, that's what I hate about these so-called relics, is that they come with the grub screws pre-seized. Just what you need. Thank you. Sarcasm there. Obviously what you don't need really. I'm just going to want to set these approximately to nice low action, so I don't work on the nut with this miles off where it should be, because that defeats the object. Okay, so put that on there. What have we got? Still too high. So this guitar isn't really designed for the low action that I'm going to try and give it. In fact, it's not even designed for a very low action, so it's struggling a bit. Actually, it's just on. It's not perfect. So what will we have? Let's go 1.5. Blimey, do that here. 1.5 dead on. 1.5-ish, tiny bit above. Okay, that's not bad. I'll leave that there for a minute. So we can work now on this end. So off you come. On the G, we're going to go with 0.3. This one being the 17. This new brush. So what happens is once we got the nut cut to the target height, any excess material we can cut away above the nut. So this is quite difficult to get right down to the right height without running into the wood behind the nut. It's okay. Now we go with the B. Not far. And the E. E being the 10 on this one. Got to cut down quite a long way because of the curve of the radius. It's a tight radius, so it means E is going to be quite a lot lower down at the edge here. Or sunk deeply into this custom nut, I should say, more likely. And as you get any deeper, it gets a little bit harder to do the thing. So I think I'm going to, if I can't get it to the right height on this run, I think I'll stop and come back to it once I've removed the material from the top. So here we have the 26. Nice, leave it there. Now we have what do we got? We've got the A. Now this, I'm thinking this is a fraction to one side, and we've got a little bit to take out, so we could do a little bit of gerrymandering here if I can find a suitable rounded thing. So we can just take this down a little bit wider. Now we should, with a bit of luck, be able to move it along tiny bit in a minute. So we're going to go to there and there. Okay. So this is going to be the blue one, the 36. Okay. Okay. And now the final one, which is probably going to be quite a deep one. So, okay, let's do it. Let's do a little bit of widening as well. Push too hard. Don't push too hard, you're something or something, something, something. What was that song? Yeah, Chapow or something, wasn't it? Okay, how are we doing there? A little bit more. It's just such hard work. Okay, okay. Right. Okay, so that is a workable action, finally. Right. Now, the slight problem is that I've now got a tiny inset over that side, which is annoying me immensely, but I can't do nothing about it just now. Okay, so now I've obviously got a very tall nut, and we can grind away most of the unnecessary stuff. A different one, a different file. Not that one, not that one. That one. Oh, not that one. But that one. Boring. Sorry I'm taking so long with this. It's just something of a nightmare. Right, while I'm at it, let's do the marking up of these here frets. Those are the things, I've been away from them for so long. I've been away for so long. Sorry, this is a very boring thing, but I haven't even checked the timing, but it'll have all this time messing about with making a nut for a nut slot that's too wide. Shit. Right, let's just get this for the time being hooked up and tuned. I'll worry about little details shortly after. Right, tuning thing. There it is. Get a bit of a stretch going. Right, there is our tuned up new action. Now, I checked it earlier on and we had 0 relief. So let's get a tiny bit of relief in here. I don't really know whether it's a dual action. Actually, that's pretty good. I'll hold it off there for a minute. Right, what I'll do is let's get on with the light leveling, and then we'll check the notes as we go, and then after that I will go into polishing mode, and we might come back the following day at this rate. So I'm going to start with the low E first. Sometimes it could do it the other way around, but it's fine. Sorry about this non-change of angle, camera angle. Let's see how exciting it is. Something like that. Right, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. Let's take that off there. Put this on here. Let's see what this tells us about the state of the frets. Well, it looks like there's something has been levelled before by the looks of it. There's a pretty flat one showing up here. So at the base end of things, what I'm looking for is a slap-free experience, baby. So I'm not really pressing down hard, but there are some frets that have been flattened before somewhere. So there's a bit of existing work, but what I want is slap-free. Not like that, see? So we're talking about, it's actually quite a tall action, and even at just nearly 2 mils at the last fret, which is high. This is about where you'd be for a 7.25 millimeter. but it's got quite a bit of slap, I have to say, so that's unusual. Again, nothing I can do about it other than work with it and try and yeah, that's about the right calibration. Just try and iron it out as gently as possible. Got a little bit of relief in, what it didn't have before. Now I guess I just want this curve on this neck, curve on this banana device to map itself onto the fretboard, so we have a little bit of extra room for these strings to spin, but it's not in good shape. There's a really low one there, a couple of very low ones there, so who knows. 7.5 millimeters. Again, this is look. Yeah, this isn't a great alignment of the neck either. We want a bit of a shove in this direction. Anyway, shouldn't be the end of the world right now. A bit better. So a bit left in the lower half now. So small improvement, but as I say, a bit of a ropey start. We'll just iron out whatever it is that's in the way gently. But yeah, that's some blisteringly high frets in the mix there. Wow, not so brilliant vintage. I mean, ooh. What's it doing in terms of relief here? See, that's dead flat on that side. Oh boy, we've got a bit of relief on that side, but it's almost completely flat on the base side. We need a bit of relief in there, which will not be helping things none. Get up there. That is something else. Blimey. 2 mils. 2 mils. It's actually not the end of the world, but it's kind of dependent on where you hit it a little bit. I'm just going to run it a little bit more, and I'm going to go right out to the edge of these frets. Make sure that we get all of it involved in the leveling part. That's I mean, we've changed them around, so this has never been a base end of things before, so that could be something to do with it, but right, let's do the A track now. Same sort of principle, really just concentrating on the shape, overall curve of the tool, rather than individual frets being high or low. We just want to map the curve of this banana, as I call it, onto the more or less hilly profile of the neck. So the low one there still, number 4, and 5 is high by comparison. So, it's nearly 2 hours, and I'm only really getting to grips with what like the geometry of the neck is. That's better. It's performing better already than the E. There's something the E doesn't like about where it currently lives. And there's a little bit more on the A, and then we'll move up. Okay. Wow. That's quite an unusually zizzy set of frets. It'll clean, or it'll improve as we get now onto the thinner strings, but it's yeah, a bit of a challenge. Mad Jack, otherwise known as Martin, sent me a link the other day to a video about the Plex system, and it was a video where I've forgotten the name already. Mary Spender and Rick Beato. He was over in London, and they together went to see the Plex machine at work. Was it London they were at, or did they go? I think it was London. Anyway, they went to see the Plex machine at work, and Martin was kind of asking me for, what did I think? Was it smoke and mirrors, or is this Plex, a really amazing, brilliant thing, or what? And I think my conclusion was, there's a bit of smoke and mirrors in that. I wonder how many of the people who pay to use it have spent day after day leveling frets and observing, what comes up in the real world of frets. But I have to say, by and large, from what I see, it's doing the right thing. And the one thing that I had been concerned about before with the Plex machine, and I think the thing confidently answered my query about it, was I always wanted to know whether the Plex machine took into account longitudinal compression. When it leveled frets. And I'm pretty confident that it does, differently from how this method does it, slightly differently, but it's doing the same thing. It's leveling. The Plex is recording the exact shape of the frets across the neck while it's loaded and compressed, and then it sort of calculates an idealized curve across all of them, and then it maps, or it decides how much every fret would need taking off to make it draw that idealized curve when loaded, but you can do that. Obviously, the machine does the leveling without it being loaded. But the point being is when you put it back on and load it, it goes back to exactly where the machine knows it will go to, that the little curve that ideal curve that it drew in the first place. So I think it does that very well. I think there are. I don't really have anything against it. It's not like I'm a Luddite and I want to smash the machine. I think it doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything essentially more than this. But of course it does it in a beautifully machine computerized, clever, sexy way. But Martin's kind of point was, well, look at all of that energy and all of that power and all of that money tied up in it and all the materials. And it's true, you know, that this recycles a truss rod, or maybe uses a new truss rod, whereas the Plek machine is this great big high-tech behemoth. Anyway, and so it's kind of, it has a very different sort of feel to it, and I guess that people who, or what do you call them, guitar emporiums that buy themselves or rent or whatever you do, lease a Plek machine, then have to, obviously price it as a way to get their money back on it. And I think the ones I've seen people talk about, it's been 170 quid a time. Well, to get those huge bends out of a thing running at just on 2 mils, I would like it a bit lower. I think it can go a bit lower on this, but it's always going to be a bit higher than your 9.5, because the 7.5 action is a little bit of a constraint on everything. But let's see, we'll drop it down just a whiff and let's see what it feels about it. Let's just get this balanced better. No, that's too high. What am I doing, Samuel? Right, we got 1.6, 1.7-ish, 2 nearly. That's climbing up. Right. I think that's good. I think we'll go with that. Get the colour of my hand. Right. So, a couple of hours in. I think we probably have to stop and break this up. But let's get these strings off first. And now the nut I'm going to have to tweak, because I've now got it slightly off to one side from where I'd really want it, which is a bit of a pain. So let's just cut these off. So that was, yeah, some fair old work on the bass side, I have to say. Not the best condition frets I've ever seen. And I don't know, actually, truth is, vintage, I've never been struck totally by, the amazing condition of their frets. I mean, the necks I really love. Once they're set up and everything, I really love the guitars, but I don't think I've ever had one that I just go, wow, those frets are to die for right off the mark. And so, it's always required some work, as shown by this. Wow, filthy. Okay, so the nut here is I need it to be slightly wider at this end, which is really annoying, and slightly thinner at the other end. How I ended up in that position, I don't know in all of this, but that's what I've got to do. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to re-crown the frets and then polish them out. And that will be, see that one, 4 didn't get touched at all. In all of that, 4 is so low. And I don't think it can be a low fret. It's in a ditch. And that's a topological, you know, up and downy feature of the neck. It's you couldn't, I don't think you could hit a fret in hard enough to make it go in and be technically that low. You'd have to sort of hammer it into the fingerboard. I think it's more likely that it's in a little temporary ditch, which is quite common. So anyway, I think we're going to run out any minute now. I'm just going to do this thing, crowning, and then I will worry about the nut. I could always fill it with an extra bit of that nice resin stuff that I just used. Though technically it's not black. Oh, I know what I could use. I could use the famous, yes, why don't I use the famous bit of the old JB Weld overnight, since I'm now going overnight with this one. Why not? We'll just fill that little end gap there, and everything else will be spot on. So it's quite a bit of leveling to make this work. Not the worst they've ever seen, but certainly not the best. Anyway, I think somebody has leveled this in the past sometime. Maybe the same person that kind of overcut this nut slot into this nearly 4mm wide thing. That's a real problem. It's taken most of the time just to get this custom nut built, and then a couple of these slots now are really a couple of these frets are really you know, quite flat. Well, not flat, but they're showing flatter at one end than the other. So they've been worked harder at one place than the other. So Thomas, it's always difficult because I don't think I've had a bad one of these particularly. I mean, I've always had to do fretwork, and they've always, you know, been a little bit difficult to get a low action on because of the 7.25 or 7.5 radius in this case. So never, you know, it never gets as low anyway as a 9.5 or a 12-inch radius. By default, that's just the limitation of the radius. But it's been a little bit more challenging. I mean, you can tell because the less challenging ones are just whiz through the leveling part, just goes effortlessly without having to think too hard. But from starting out by not having a workable nut slot to then a bit of too much slap, it's needed work from the beginning. But I think we'll have to stay up here today until tomorrow's session, complete it. But what I'll do before I leave is I'll just do a little resin fill on the nut, just to fill in the end bit. Okay, so there's my crowning. Filthy hands. Right, let's get a bit of, it's a bit too clean actually. Let's get a dirtier bit of cloth and let's wipe some of this grime off before we cut the cameras, save batteries, give them a break. I think if I have time tonight now, I think I'll do the nut tweak, and then I'll possibly do the sanding out of the frets ready for tomorrow. But we'll see what the time is in a minute. It's all grubby at the moment. I need a good polish down. Yeah, so a lot of that difficulty, really, all of that time tied up in what somebody else has done to the nut slot, particularly. So not brilliant. Okay. What am I thinking? Oh yes, I'm thinking what time is it? It is. Let's just quick check. Yeah, 5 to 9. I'm going to have to stop. All right, thanks for watching this. Sorry it's been so boring. It is a boring process when you have to fight so hard with a nut. And I will see you tomorrow. Bang! Here we are. Nut done. Little build up over there done. Just to fill in so it's smooth. Frets levelled, recrowned, polished out, everything cleaned, and we're really now ready to refit strings. So I'm going to go down this here end. Now we've got Elixir strings. Andrew sent these, and I'm going to keep a close eye because these things don't come. They always bug me a little bit because they don't come with what's the word? They don't come with that stuff, silica gel. These hair strings. So I worry that they get grungy. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm be keeping an eye out for black marks. Okay, so we're going to go left-handed. Oh, before we tighten anything up, we'll rearrange the intonation pattern, which we'll need for a left-handed guitar, which will be slightly in the opposite direction as far as the bridge is concerned. The bridge is staggered as a right-handed bridge, naturally. Naturally? Yes, it is naturally a right-handed bridge. So the little holes in the block tend to privilege the right-handed, the way the string comes through, and where the saddle would normally fall in a right-handed intonation. So I think it's going to just be slightly off. It will intonate it, but it'll negate that cute little Wilkinson touch, I think, there. So okay, so these all look alright so far. I haven't seen any black rust or anything. Sometimes I've spotted them in Wilkinson, no, not Wilkinson, that other thing, Elixir. Okay, so now we're stringing upside down in my world. I'll get my Dewey Appy thingy. So these easy lock tuners, I don't use them, so I still won't use them. What I will do is I will I'll start by placing the string in, what do I really want? Probably the highest one, and we'll go under that. So let's get the highest one round. On all of these, highest one round, please. So the problem with using this right-handed tuner thing in this guitar is that playing left-handed, it'll operate like a right-handed. Oh god, it's really mind-boggling to figure it out, like a Chinese puzzle of some sort. Anyway, so here we have the string. So I tend to pull back one fret from there and wind on. Now it has to be the opposite way now on this. Wind on. We go over the top of the held one, sorry, the loose one. So let the loose one go underneath. And then as it comes round, bend it right down low and let it come up. Thank you. Into there. Like so. And that keeps it at a good angle. Oops, bang. So that's that one. Make sure it's on. And then the next one, and so on. So it's a right-handed upside down. There is some rust on there. It's on the steel bit. I think Elixir should be doing metal seal. I know it's not environmentally great. Failing that, then they should be doing silica gel or something to keep the moisture out of these strings. They're expensive enough. And I have to say, in the age of the internet and internet ordering, I've been disappointed too many times with tired looking yeah, there are black spots on these strings down at the bottom here. Devils, and some rust. Not good, not good at all. You need to protect them better. Considering the price we pay, they pay, customers pay. So basically I'm pulling back one fret's worth, and I'm ignoring the easy lock part of this tuner because it does work, but actually in my experience it lulls you into a false sense of security on the plain strings, and if you think you can just pull it through and lock it off and go, you will be mistaken because it will slide off. So I prefer to do it the old tried and trusted way, which is pull back one fret's worth, hold the held string, this one, taut, guide it over the loose string first, and as it comes round, push it under the loose string the second time. And that creates a little locking wrap, which is perfectly good. And that does all the locking you'll ever need. Hooray. So, yeah. So I've got a few interesting things brewing at the moment. I've got a prospective customer who wants a Mazda RX-8 coloured guitar. It's a headless guitar that he's had for quite some time, but it's got a bit damaged in the paint department, so he wants it refinished, but in a metallic pearl Mazda RX-8 car colour. So it'd be quite interesting if I do that, because I've not used 2K car colours before. I've used Halford's type car colours and high coats, but not the 2K, the ones with the catalyst built in. So I kind of look forward to having a go with that. It's not the easiest thing in the world doing spray in this workshop, because it's dusty for a start. It's always dusty. Impossible to keep the place undusty. And then also environmentally, it's usually, well, we've got winter long humidity, relative humidity, so that's a bit tricky. So we have to I have to work either, well, a combination of find a decent, relatively low humidity day and heat the both the lacquer and the space as well as I can, and dehumidify and so on. So it's quite a lot of work, and yeah, it's places that are set up to do it all the time are, goes without saying, much better at it. But at the same time, when customers come to me specially because they've heard or they've been recommended by someone else for, you know, all-round guitar work, and in this case it was for setup and this respray, I don't want to turn them down, really. It would be silly. Yeah, it'd be mad to do. I'm just going to put some gloves on a minute, because I have to order some more. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to, well, if that one happens, it's the difficulty, of course, is I can't do it cheaply. If you look at the amount of time it takes to get it done, and then depending if someone wants a gloss finish, you have to factor in all the time required to you know, sand back and buff out and stuff, and that's really, it can be really time consuming. So it's a challenging one. It may be that I'm priced out of range, that will take care of itself. But if I do it, I'd look forward to that, because it'd be nice to work with a different material or a different paint than I've used before. Okay, so now I'm going to get me a tuner, get this on. Okay, just looking at this a minute. Yeah, that's okay. A little bit more room on the treble side, but I think that's better of the two. That's the better place to have it. If you're going to have it at all, have it on the more room on the treble side for bending. And of course, on this guitar, treble side's here, which is upside down. For my way of looking at things. Anyway, I'm going to... So what we're going to do is I'm going to stretch this out, tune it up, stretch it out a couple more times, get rid of as much of the slack as I possibly can. And then the only thing after that really will be to set the tremolo. And Andrew wants it set floating. Yeah, so we'll set it floating, and we'll set it with a range of float, or that will give backwards pitch increase when you bend backwards of a semitone on the high E, a tone on the B, and a tone and a half on the G. And for some reason that's the sort of standard setting. You can cant the tail end of your tremolo higher if you want a bigger range. If you wanted, for example, a whole tone on the E, you'd have to stand up the tail higher. But for some reason, it sort of comes down to personal use and your playing technique, really. I'll do one more stretch and then we'll get on to the tremolo side of things. Right. I've also got, yes, a much loved older historical customer from a couple of years ago. Come back with an interest in maybe building a custom Telecaster for him. I won't say who it is. Okay, looking good, tasting good. So what I'm going to do is bring you down this end, where you can at least get a different camera angle for once. I'm so sorry about how boring this all gets. So I'm going to do the famous thing. What do you call it? I call it the famous Galeazzo Fredua setting the tremolo method. Now, we're a little bit loose on this, so we would want to be tightening this up as well. But so we've got our tremolo plate moving nicely, no adjustment needed there. But we're going to set it to a float. So what we do to begin with, first of all, we want everything flat on the deck, which it currently is. That's great. That's our start point. If it isn't, I tighten up all the screws in the back, tighten up the tremolo claw screws until the deck is flat and the guitar is in normal tune. I'll just quickly re-look at the action here. It's a fraction high. Wow. What's that sticking under there? That's some sort of, is that some shielding or something? This is weird. What have they done here? What have they done? So it's quite tall. That is just over 2.2, and this is I would say this is down 2. So we have a fraction of downing. We can go here, but it really is a tiny bit, and that takes us to 1.75. Just looking at this end, see where this is placed. I think this is higher than it needs to be. Typical. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the tremolo float, and then I'm going to just tweak these nut slots a bit. But I think I'll do it off camera because I can't stand doing it on camera. It drives me nuts. Okay, so to set this, we're in tune. We'll stand the guitar on a, what is it, bench biscuit dog thing, bench dog. Okay, so now I need a tuner, canna tuner, tune of canna. Oh, speaking of tuners, I began to mention on the video yesterday, talking to Mad Dog Martin with a Y, and Mad Dog Martin makes kind of exotic little amps out of pallet wood and odd things. I think he's made a tuner can one. So I would love to try one of those. So I'm going to see if he'll let me try one out for fun. Okay, so I think I better take off the gloves for this bit because I can't really ping the harmonics. Okay. Now, yes, I know it bends the neck back under gravity, so it will be slightly sharp. That's not the important bit here. Just get annoyed with people. So you've got to do it in the playing position. Some things you do, but not everything. So be conscious and know what it is you have to do in the playing position. Right, first thing we do, we're going to take this G and bend it down to F. And as we're bending it, we're going to fit as many bits of sheets of paper, post-it notes, as it requires to hold it to being E. So I go from G to E. Still sharp, flat of F, sorry, sharp of E. Sharp of E still. A couple more sheets. And what I'm doing here, one more sheet, go on, let's have one more sheet. I'm setting the range, presetting the range. So I'm tilting this into a position where, well, we would do when you're flat of E. Let's have one sheet off. We'll go with this one. Oh, what? All right, 2 sheets off. So by doing this, I'm setting the lift of the tremolo where it needs to be. There you go. So what we do now is we tune this, everything now back up to pitch. So this is effectively as if we're hard tailing the guitar with its tail floating where we want it to start. Obviously, when I take the pad of paper out, it will no longer be hard-tailed, and what do you think will happen? That's right. The powerful springs that I've dialed in at the back will pull the plate down and send the notes sharp. And that's okay, because what we'll do is we will then use the tremolo claw springs at the back. Oh, I've done it again. Ding dang doodly. Right, ignore me. Let's go back to normal tuning. Sorry about this. The thing I always, well, no, I don't always forget, but I have forgotten, is that when I set the tremolo to the float that we want, when I set it to float in its floaty position, it lifts the saddles up. So before we do it, it makes sense to reset the height of the saddles. Currently I've got them here at my target playing action, shall we call it. It's not actually, well, it is just about. But it's going to change. So if I just did the thing of resetting and tilting the tremolo to where it needs to pivot to act as a floating trem, it would have worked, but I would have raised the action up by about 0.5 millimeter. So what I must do, only when I'm doing the floating tremolo business, is get my tuning there. Then I will, if I can find where I've just put it, which is silly, I'll get my thing, and I'm going to lower everything by 0.5 mil. But you know what? I can't actually do that because guess why? There isn't enough room in this. There's not enough. I'm going to have to shim this neck. There we go. I knew it would get me in the end. Oh, slightly annoying. So before I do anything, I'm just going to clamp off the strings here so that I can take the neck off without them going everywhere. So that's a little bit annoying. The neck, the geometry of this guitar is not such that it makes it easy. You may have seen before me struggling to get the action down to where I wanted it, and I was just about settling for it, but actually the truth is it's not, I can't get it low enough, and so to correct that, what I need to do is to shim the neck. So let me just zoom out for a minute now, because we're back onto everything's different. So what I'm going to do is I will get me a piece of sticky tape, double-sided. I will attach it to this brass shim, which I know exactly what the dimensions of this shim are. They are, well, the thickness is 0.25 of a mil, and I'm going to, and I also know how that adjusts the action on this guitar, or any electric guitar. So I'm just basically setting this shim up so I can just tack it with this sticky tape to the inside of the neck heel, and it will do its job. Now this will also help me because instead of the saddles all being right down on their haunches with the prickly bit sticking in your hands, what will happen now is that we'll get the saddles to be higher up, which is a much more comfortable position. So to do this, I have to remove the neck bolt screws, also I can reposition perhaps the neck a little bit as well, which I sort of had half a mind to do. It was not the end of the world, but while we're there we can experiment. So yeah, very common to have to do this. Hence I've bought myself plenty of shimming material, and I will quite regularly end up doing this. Usually at the end, as you can see, this has got an absolutely shambolic neck pocket. Blimey. Sorry about this. Look at that. What is that? Honestly, would you look at that? That is diabolical. Rubbish, man, rubbish. So that is going to probably make it sit even lower. It's a mess. Right, well, take out as much as I can. Get me my shim. Well, that's definitely going to need it now. Sorry about this view, it's a bit poor. Yeah, so that's not another. Doesn't look very. There's a bit of a. There's some really amateur hacking away in here. I don't think this is brand new, and I'm not saying. I'm not suggesting the guy who sold it to Andrew has tried to rip him off. I think what may have happened. There are a lot of sellers. I've bought vintage guitars, vintage brand guitars from sellers who say brand new, you know, in the box, blah blah blah, with packaging, whatever, and you get what looks like, and actually especially vintage, for some reason vintage guitars seem to end up in that place, a kind of reseller heaven. I don't know why, but they often do, and I've bought more than a few from there in the past, but when they end up there, I don't like the feel of that so much. When they end up there, they get sold on to somebody, and sold as new, effectively, because, well, they were sold to somebody as new. Anyhow, I think this is a bit of a factory. If it's not been hacked around by a previous owner, which, you know, I'll take I say it wasn't I'll take the word for the last seller that it wasn't them, but it's been hacked around by somebody, and if it wasn't an owner, then it would be in the factory, which is not at all nice. Now this is now come off. Why has that come off here? All right, I caught one over the top of the next one. Bear with me. Thank you. Come back the other way. Right, now you're down on the floor, which I would expect. These aren't even level. This is a bit of a Doug's dinner. Right, let's get this off here and let's see where the positioning lines up, and let's get one of these undone a bit. Okay, that's where we want to go, like so. Tighten this back up. Look at it again. Yep, that'll do me. Yeah. Bit of a ragged mess in there. So somebody's hacked away at this and the nut. I mean, the reason I know that's the case is because these vintages never came with a Tusq 7.5 inch, and I'm almost certain I don't remember seeing one with a 7.5 inch Tusq, 7.25 inch radius Tusq nut. Any way. Now we've gained a bit of height in here, and the action is now down to quite a lot lower. So I'm going to have to fart about for a minute, getting it back to where I would want it to be, which is now going to be higher than that, and then I'll take it backwards. So there is our 1.5. Not sure, but we'll come back to that. We are just over 1.5, just over 1.5, just over 1.5. Okay, that's actually quite now where I wanted it, but we couldn't have had it there before, which is weird. Let's tune it up. How difficult is it to find that? Okay, well now I've got a tiny bit to lower it to, which is good, but we didn't have that before. Okay, so now I'm going to start out by doing what I was going to do before, which is I'm going to take each one of these back by half a mil, which happens to be a turn, half turn of this thing. So if I go counterclockwise half a turn on every single one of these things, we get half a mil down. Now, when you're doing this preparatory to setting up your tremolo to float fully, you would expect that dropping this down this extra half an inch would make it not work properly. In other words, you would expect buzz and choke and stuff, which is fine. We're not going to play it like this. We're just going to set it like this while I get ready to tilt up the back end and set it floating. And equally, if you get tired of it being a floating trem, fully floating, and you want to go back to down only, you would deck the thingy first, and then you would raise the string, each saddle by 1/2 turn of each grub screw. Okay, so now we're back in the territory of getting ready to set this to where we want it. So we tune everything up again to pitch. Get out of the way. Hate not be able to reach it properly. Right, so we now take our G down to E. E flat, gone too far. Flat of E. To back. Okay, just on back, just flat of E. So now we tune up back to normal pitch with the block pad still under there, sort of hard tailing us at the position we want our guitar to sit, or the bridge to sit while we're playing it. Now pushing up with the block of post-it notes, TM, would have raised the saddles up that little bit as well. So I'm just going to now just fine tune There we go. So now we're tuned up again to normal. Let go of this, everything goes sharp. And here's the clever trick. We get a good screwdriver and we... where's that gone? I've lost my thing. It's dropped down somewhere. I have to find it. So now, how do we get this back to where we want it? We start with our G again. And we unscrew the tremolo claw, slacking off the force on the springs until that note goes back to G. As with all Strat tremolos, it's nigh on impossible to reach the tremolo claw in a straight line, so you end up, there's quite a big risk of there being some damage to the Phillips head or whatever you'll use, whatever screwdriver you've got. This is one of those vessel ones. It's a good grip, but even still. So we're G sharp, and we just want to keep going until we're G. Now what we'll find is, as we take the force off the springs by bring the springs out, we find that the back of the tremolo raises up, which is exactly what we'd expect, and we're nearly there. So the G becomes G again. Pretty much spot on. And there we have our correct amount of tilt set for the prescribed amount of raising or lowering, raising of the action. And there it is, that's where it will float. And of course, since it floats there, it's going to give us a bit of up movement as well as down. So here's our back to front. Now that we'll just get rid of that little bit of a rattle if we can by exposing the little grub screw at the back, and with a bit of luck, if we can get this thing on target, tightening it up. There we go. That's much tighter or firmer. And then we can also, with the arm in now, we can just tweak the tuning on everything. Lovely. Now what we'll do is we'll check the intonation, which will be back to front. Ha, silly, I should have slacked the things off and done them back to front. Hang on, let's do it. That's too long, so it's going to want to come this way. Shorten it. See how far we can go before it drops off. So all I really need to do is set the E. Close, a little bit more. Okay, and then we will do these other ones. May have set the whole thing adrift. Good. You can do the rest of these by eye. This one's got to make quite a travel. Come on. Obviously back to front, you see. To the bottom three. Fine. Okay. That is it done. Moving the nut is strings going through the nut nice and smooth, not a ping in sight, in earshot. Okay, everything running smooth. There we go. Lovely, lovely. Left-handed, ready to be played. Left-handed. With the tremolo above. Everything above. Controls all above. Weird, weird, weird. Okay, that will be it for now. Thank you for watching. Sorry it took 2 bites at this one, but the nut created all the fun of the fair. So I'll get this one off to Andrew before too long, and soon in fact. Let's put it in my bag, my transit bag. We can bring it home. Lovely jubbly, ready to go. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.